Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Well, this is a pretty cool milestone, isn't it? Check out the headline. XRP Ledger hits a milestone after closing 50 millionth ledger. So I want to talk a little bit about the significance of this and a little bit of XRP's quote-unquote troubled past as it pertains to closing ledgers. And then I'll close up the video with a piece from CoinDesk that I found fascinating. It's titled "Cyber Criminals Selling Hacked Fiat Money for Bitcoin at 10% of its Value." Now, before we get going here, if you would please delicately tap that like button, and if you're a fan of Ripple and XRP, I bet you're a pretty good person. Go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. It's a good idea. Check out this tweet. I want to share this with you here. This is from Nick Bougalis. He is, I always forget his title, leads the C++ team, right? Let me take a look. Yeah, cryptographer and software engineer leading the C++ team at Ripple. Still not sure if I'm saying his last name right. Bougalis, it's one of those probably. I don't know. It's Nick. I'll just say Nick. That's easier. But anyway, so here's a tweet from Nick. The XRP Ledger successfully closed Ledger 50 million and has processed well over 1 billion transactions in the process. And then he shares with the hashes. And then there's another tweet right below that from Nick. And it says, "It's incredibly humbling to be a small part of this milestone, and I'm forever grateful to @JoelKatz," which is David Schwartz, Ripple's CTO and co-creator of the XRP Ledger. And he writes, "My brother in digital arms for the opportunity." Let me dig into this piece here. In what is being touted as a milestone for the XRP ecosystem, the decentralized XRP Ledger, XRPL, closed its 50 millionth ledger index on September 13th. A deeper look at the XRP Ledger showed the 50 millionth ledger contained 46 transactions, and the total processing fee stood at 0.6006 XRP. And then here's the tweet that I just read from. I just wanted to pull it up on the screen, actually, but they did put that in the article, the first tweet anyway. All right, XRP Ledger takes the lead. In another feat for the open source ledger, XRPL, which is capable of sustaining a throughput of 1,500 transactions per second. Bitcoin, what you got? Now, how ya gonna act? Back to the article. Had recently executed 370 transactions in Ledger Index, 49,624,361 in the early hours of August 28th. Could they not have put commas in that number, 49,624,361? Just put a couple commas in there to make it a little easier for Moon Lambo to read to everybody listening. That would have been nice. Come on, next time. A and B, get it together. The closing time for the ledger was just 3.5 seconds, with processing fee totaling up to 26.27 XRP, which was more than 105 transactions per second. XRP Ledger has seen a gradual but significant growth in terms of transactions processed per second. Yeah, and I would like to state, nowhere near maxing out what XRP can do on-chain at 1,500 per second. Not even close. Anyway, piece continues. According to the following data from BitInfoCharts, the figures for XRP transactions appeared positive. There's a little chart on the screen if you care to take a peek. Despite ongoing disputes in the XRP community over forking, the decentralized ledger created by has continued to significantly contribute to the ecosystem. That's a broken sentence. Crypto media. Please, just, whatever. Check your work, damn it. In addition to processing XRP transactions within seconds at minimum costs, XRPL was also capable of processing transactions for other assets as well. For instance, when 200,000 ETH was sent across the XRP ledger on August 28th. The development was revealed by a Twitter handle named @DevNullProd, which was a software production agency specializing in XRP intelligence. And by the way, and that should be, it's not like, I mentioned this the other day, it just keeps coming up, I guess, and it's fine. But Ethereum, it's not like Ethereum actually left the blockchain. There would be an IOU issued on the XRP Ledger's decentralized exchange. That's all that actually was. So it represents Ethereum. It is not Ethereum. Just like XRP can never leave the XRP Ledger, it's quite literally impossible. Anyway, to celebrate the milestone reached by XRP Ledger, @DevNullProd created a series of 5 puzzles, one at a time. It required the contestants to solve and submit the response via instructions which will be posted in the future to enter a pool which will randomly select winners. The first challenge was posted in August. So cool stuff here. Now, let me show you this. This is it on your screen. If you're not driving, feel free to take a look here. This is Ledger 50 million. I just wanted to pull it up on the screen for you. This is it in all of its glory. All these transactions occurring. Crazy stuff here. And here it is in real time. As I'm recording this, we're at, what is this, 50,114,247 ledgers successfully closed. So, keeps on ticking. One day it's going to hit 100, and I'll make a video about it. It'll take a long time to get there, many years, but that's okay. We're going to be getting there. And so, this tweet, 50 million ledgers closed. Yeah, there we go. 50 million ledgers closed. Congratulations to all the XRP validators and holders. That's from Ripple It in Z. And next piece here. Let's talk a little bit about XRP's past here. This is a blog from Galgatron. I'm only going to read one small section of this, though, because as we're talking about ledgers, 50 million ledgers being closed, there's a bit of a quote-unquote dark past. It's not that big a deal, but let me just read this for you. It has to do with the original 32,750 XRP blocks, which are called ledgers on the XRP ledger instead of blocks. I don't know why. If somebody knows, actually drop that in the comments below. I've been wondering that for a while. There's no easy way for me to find an answer. Anyway, and so the title of this piece was "Why the Haters Hate XRP." And so here's one of the bullet points that I wanted to read for you. They believe that the first 32,750 XRP ledger blocks are missing, but that's not true. Ripple reset the Genesis block to this number to compensate for lost headers that describe the first day and a half of the ledger's online presence, when virtually nobody was even using it or could be affected by it. Those earlier transactions themselves are still preserved, however, and no XRP is lost or hidden behind this. It was the result of a software bug, but they were the entire XRP validator network at the time, and so they had majority vote, and there was most likely no collateral damage. And even though they currently still have the majority vote, and then he wrote in parentheses, edit, no longer true, Ripple is now a minority validator, even still, they could never do that today without the endorsement of all the companies hosting trusted nodes and unavoidable public scrutiny. Reconstruction efforts have failed, but are of little consequence as these lost headers are completely irrelevant to the state of the ledger today. And now, I would like to hear straight from the lips of David Schwartz, co-creator of the XRP Ledger. This is a post. I can't talk today. This is a post from BitcoinTalk.org, dated June 2nd, 2013. So at this point, XRP had only been live for about half a year or something like that. So here's what David Schwartz had to say on this. Unfortunately, due to a server bug, some history was lost. You can't trace all the way back to the Genesis ledger. You can trace back to ledger 32,570. All history after the beta was opened is still available. All that was lost was the ledger headers. All the transactions are still available, so there's some hope that the history may still be recovered. In each ledger, there is a header field that tracks the total amount of XRP in existence. It is easy to check that the total XRP in the ledger equals the amount in the header, and that the header field equals the previous ledger's total less the total of all transaction fees. There are no mechanisms to create or destroy XRP, or any change that did so would be immediately detectable. All ledgers, after 32,570, are publicly available. Each ledger contains the hash of the previous ledger, and all the transactions that were applied to turn the previous ledger into this ledger. Each transaction is signed by the account that issued it and is bundled in the ledger along with metadata explaining precisely what ledger entries it affected. If, for example, XRP were to somehow appear, there would have to be an accepted ledger before the XRP appeared and an accepted ledger after the XRP appeared. All those ledgers would be signed by the majority of validators, or they wouldn't have been accepted. In the first ledger after the XRP appeared, there would either have to be a transaction whose metadata included the increase in XRP or not. If not, then there is 100% conclusive evidence that a stated invariant was broken. An account's balance may not be changed without a transaction whose metadata shows that change. If so, then there is still 100% conclusive evidence that a stated invariant was broken. An account's metadata may only change the total XRP in the ledger by destroying its transaction fee. This would all be conclusively provable by anyone who cared to look. So now you know. I think it's cool and fascinating stuff, but I'm just being an XRP dork here. All right, last piece for this video. Cyber criminals selling hacked fiat money for Bitcoin at 10% of its value. There's now an underground service catering to criminals that lack the skills or nerve to hack into online accounts to steal funds. According to a September report from a security as a service firm, Armor, hackers on dark markets are now selling fiat cash for fractions of its worth to avoid the risk of dealing with the money themselves. Armor's Threat Resistance Unit, TRU, research team said in the report, quote, "There are plenty of hackers willing to simply transfer stolen funds to the bank account or PayPal account of your choice and send you the funds via Western Union." The team said the new service had been spotted within the last year, and it has bloomed into a key offering on the dark web. Those using the service will get what appears to be a real bargain, gaining cash for Bitcoin at roughly 10 to 12 cents on the dollar. For example, a customer can pay the seller $800 in Bitcoin, and $10,000 will be transferred to their account of choice. Aside from being cheap, the service makes things much simpler for customers, since they no longer have to buy stolen online bank account credentials, set up a Money Mule account to receive the funds, and log into the stolen account to transfer the money. Armor calls it a seamless turnkey money laundering service. There's a reason dark web sellers are offering such low prices, of course. The service appeals to sellers because they are not taking possession of the funds themselves. Just transferring the cash puts the bulk of the risk on the buyer. More generally, the report says that Bitcoin is still the most popular cryptocurrency, being used almost exclusively in dark web transactions. Cryptos with more privacy features like Monero, Dash, Zcash are sometimes used but tend to require more technical skill on the part of victims, Armor said. Which is a good point. And that's why before I read this article, I was kind of wondering, because I knew it was about Bitcoin, and I was like, why wouldn't they just use Monero, Dash, Zcash, and I own none of those, and I knew nothing about it. I've never transacted with them. Anything that I did in terms of research, it was a couple years ago, and it's pretty much all out of my brain at this point. But I didn't realize that, and apparently it's the case, that it's much harder to use from a technical perspective. So how about that? So rather than learn how to use it and actually conduct a completely private transaction, you use Bitcoin, which is not anonymous. Interesting. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!